Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the wide viewing window. He had been doing this job for 15 years now, exploring space and mapping new worlds for the Terran Federation. It was usually quiet work, which he liked, but today felt different. "Captain, we're getting signals from the Kepler system," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. She was his best officer, smart and careful. "Looks like another battle between the Zephyrians and the Hegemony." Jake sighed. The two alien races had been fighting for over 1,000 years. Nobody could remember how it started anymore. They just kept killing each other, destroying planets and wiping out entire civilizations. The human government had always stayed out of it. That was the rule. Humanity would remain neutral no matter what happened. "How bad is it this time?" Jake asked. Amy checked her screens. "Really bad, sir. Both fleets are huge, maybe 3,000 ships each. They're fighting right over the mining colony on Kepler 7. Dr. Kate Sullivan looked up from her science station. She studied alien life forms and had been with the crew for 8 years. "Captain, there are 12 million people living on that planet, mostly refugees from other wars." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had seen this too many times before. The aliens would fight their battle and millions of innocent people would die. Then both sides would claim victory and move on to destroy the next planet. "Set course for the Kepler system," Jake ordered. "We need to see this." Commander Pete Collins, the ship's engineer, shook his head. "Sir, you know we can't get involved. Orders from Earth are clear. We watch and report. Nothing more." "I know the orders, Pete," Jake said quietly. "But we still need to witness what happens. Someone has to record the truth." The Defiance moved through space at faster than light speed. It took them 6 hours to reach the Kepler system. What they found there made everyone on the bridge go silent. The space around Kepler 7 was full of burning ships. Pieces of destroyed vessels floated everywhere like deadly snow. The planet below was covered in smoke and fire from the orbital bombardment. "My God," whispered Amy. "They're still fighting." On the main screen they could see the battle still raging. Zephyrian ships fired their plasma cannons while hegemony vessels responded with quantum torpedoes. Neither side seemed to care that their weapons were also hitting the planet below. Kate checked her sensors. "I'm reading massive casualties on the surface. Whole cities are gone. The radiation levels are off the charts." Jake watched as a Zephyrian cruiser exploded, its debris raining down on the planet. A few seconds later, 3 hegemony fighters crashed into what used to be a major city. More death. More destruction. "This has to stop," Pete said, his hands clenched into fists. "It won't," Jake replied. "It never does. This is just another day for them." The battle went on for 18 more hours. Jake's crew took turns watching, documenting everything. By the time it was over, both alien fleets were almost completely destroyed. Less than 50 ships limped away from each side. The planet below was a burning wasteland. "Final casualty report," Kate said, her voice shaking. 11.7 million confirmed dead. The rest are missing, probably vaporized in the orbital strikes. Jake closed his eyes. Nearly 12 million people dead. And for what? A mining planet that was now too radioactive to use for the next 1,000 years. "Send the report to Earth," he ordered. "All of it, every detail." 3 weeks later, Jake received new orders. He was to attend a diplomatic meeting at Babylon Point, a neutral space station on the edge of human territory. His sister Mary would be there too, working as a civilian engineer on the station's new docking systems. When Jake arrived at Babylon Point, he found delegations from both alien races waiting. The Zephyrian ambassador was a tall, blue-skinned creature named Veltar. The hegemony sent Warlord Krex, who looked like a giant insect with too many arms. "Captain Morrison," Ambassador Veltar said in his translated voice, "your people have watched us fight for centuries. Don't you think it's time humanity chose a side?" Warlord Krex clicked his mandibles in agreement. "Yes, human. Your federation grows stronger while we tear each other apart. You must help us finish this war." Jake kept his face calm. "The Terran Federation maintains strict neutrality. We don't take sides in conflicts that don't involve us." "But it does. Involve you now, Veltar said. Refugees flood into your space. Trade routes are disrupted. Your colonies suffer from our war whether you admit it or not. Choose the Zephyrian Empire, Veltar continued. We can offer you technology, resources, entire star systems. Krek stepped forward, his multiple arms gesturing wildly. Choose the hegemony instead, human. We are stronger. We will win this war with or without you, but it would be easier with your help. Jake looked at both aliens and felt something cold settle in his chest. They were bargaining with him like he was some kind of merchant, as if the deaths of billions of innocent people were just business expenses. I'll need to consult with my government, Jake said carefully. That's when everything changed. Veltar's eyes narrowed. Perhaps we need to help you understand the urgency of this decision. The explosion came without warning. Jake was thrown to the floor as the station shook violently. Emergency alarms started screaming. Through the windows he could see a Zephyrian ship firing on the station's engineering section. That was just a warning shot, Veltar said calmly. Next time we might hit something more important. Jake got to his feet, his ears ringing. You just attacked a neutral station. You killed civilians. Sometimes sacrifices must be made to achieve peace, Krex added. The hegemony agrees with this approach. Jake's blood went cold. My sister works in that section. He ran toward the damaged area, pushing past alien diplomats and security forces. The engineering section was a twisted mess of metal and sparking electronics. Search teams were already pulling bodies from the wreckage. Jake found Mary 20 minutes later. She was trapped under a collapsed beam, her body broken and still. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. Something died inside Jake at that moment. Something that had kept humanity's true nature hidden for 300 years. He stood up slowly, Mary's blood on his hands, and looked back at the two alien ambassadors who were watching from a safe distance. They seemed pleased with themselves, as if they had made their point clearly. They had no idea what they had just done. They had no idea what humanity really was when the gloves came off. The galaxy was about to find out. Admiral Lisa Carter sat at the head of the long table in the war room, deep beneath the surface of Earth. Around her were the most powerful military leaders in human space. For 3 centuries, this room had been used only for planning defensive strategies. Today, everything was different. Gentlemen and ladies, Admiral Carter said, her voice cold as space. As of 6 hours ago, the Terran Federation is no longer neutral. Both alien powers have declared war on humanity by attacking Babylon Point and murdering our civilians. General, Frank Hayes opened a thick folder marked with red warning labels. It's time they learned what we've really been building out here. Jake Morrison sat at the far end of the table, still wearing his blood-stained uniform. He hadn't slept since finding Mary's body. The other officers looked at him with a mixture of respect and pity. Everyone knew his loss had triggered this moment. General Hayes, show them the real numbers, Admiral Carter ordered. Hayes activated the main display screen. What appeared made several officers gasp, even though they all had high security clearance. For the past 300 years, while maintaining our public neutrality, we have been preparing for this day, Hayes explained. The galaxy believes humanity has 47 active military vessels. The actual number is 473,000. The room went completely silent. Every asteroid mining facility has been a disguised shipyard, Hayes continued. Every deep space research station has been a weapons testing facility. Every exploration mission like Captain Morrison's has been gathering intelligence on alien, military capabilities. Admiral Carter stood up. Captain Morrison, I'm promoting you to Admiral and giving you command of Task Force Vengeance. Choose your officers. Jake looked around the room. I want Claire Johnson from the Retribution and Steve Parker from the Justice. Both have experience with alien technology. Done, Carter replied. Dr. Sullivan will join Admiral Lucy Thompson's Science Division. They'll be developing new weapons based on what we've learned about alien weaknesses. Hayes pulled up another screen showing ship designs that looked nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels the galaxy was familiar with. These were sleek, predatory shapes covered in weapon systems. The UES Retribution class carries quantum phase cannons that can punch through any known alien shielding, Hayes explained. The Justice-class ships are equipped with reality anchor missiles that prevent enemy vessels from jumping to hyperspace. Dr. Kate Sullivan studied the technical specifications. Admiral, how long have we been planning this? Since first contact, Carter answered. Our ancestors learned from human history. Every time a peaceful civilization encountered a warlike one, the peaceful side lost. We decided that would never happen to humanity. The display changed to show star charts with thousands of red dots marking human military installations hidden throughout the galaxy. The aliens think they know our territory, Hayes said. They believe we control maybe 30 star systems. We actually have significant military presence in over 2,000 systems, including locations deep inside both the Zephyrian Empire and hegemony space. Jake felt something stirring in his chest. Not hope exactly, but something harder and more focused. What about their response? They'll try to hit Earth first. Admiral Thompson, the Science Division commander, smiled grimly. Let them try. Our orbital defense grid has been operational for 2 centuries. It's disguised as asteroid deflection and space traffic control systems, but it can sterilize an entire invasion fleet before they get within 10 light-years of Earth. Carter activated another display showing real-time intelligence from both alien territories. Our spy networks have been in place for decades. We know their fleet positions, supply lines, command structures, and military codes. They know almost nothing about us. General Hayes pointed to a tactical display. The Zephyrians are massing their 7th battle group to attack our colony at New Boston. 512 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. They expect to find a lightly defended farming world. How many ships are actually defending New Boston? Jake asked. Officially, 3 patrol vessels, Carter replied. Actually, the entire 3rd Fleet under Admiral Ben Rodriguez, 47 ships that the enemy has never seen before and doesn't know how to fight. Dr. Sullivan looked troubled. Admiral, won't this level of military action cause massive casualties? I know they killed Mary, but millions of alien soldiers are just following orders. Carter's expression softened slightly. Doctor, our war doctrine is based on efficiency, not cruelty. We'll destroy their military capacity as quickly as possible to minimize total casualties. A short, decisive war saves more lives than a long, bloody one. Hayes pulled up psychological profiles of both alien species. Our xenopsychology teams have identified critical weaknesses in how both races think about warfare. They're trapped in tactical thinking patterns that go back millions of years. They literally cannot comprehend the kind of strategic planning we're capable of. Jake studied the alien fleet movements on the tactical display. When do we expect contact? The Zephyrian attack on New Boston will begin in 18 hours, Carter replied. Admiral Rodriguez has been waiting for them. His orders are simple. Complete annihilation of the enemy force. No survivors, no prisoners, no mercy. The room fell quiet again. For 3 centuries, humanity had been known as peaceful explorers and traders. In 18 hours, the galaxy would learn the truth. Dr. Sullivan broke the silence. What about after we win? The aliens will never trust us again. They don't trust us now, Carter pointed out. They just murdered civilians to make a point. Our choice is to fight back or spend the rest of human history as their victims. Jake thought about Mary's broken body and felt his resolve harden. They made their choice when they decided human lives were acceptable losses for their political games. Hayes closed his folders. All task force commanders have their orders. The first phase begins when New Boston is attacked. Phase 2 activates immediately afterward. Simultaneous strikes on major alien military installations across 50 star systems. Carter looked around the table one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, humanity has been pretending to be weak for 300 years. Tomorrow that pretense ends. The aliens wanted to see what humans do when pushed too far. They're about to find out. As the meeting ended, Jake walked to the window overlooking Earth's capital city. Millions of people went about their daily lives completely unaware that everything was about to change. By tomorrow night, humanity would either be the dominant military power in the galaxy or a smoking ruin. He thought about Mary again. and about all the innocent civilians he had watched die in alien wars over the years. The killing would end, one way or another. The Zephyrians and hegemony had been fighting for 1,000 years without resolution. They were about to learn how humans ended wars, quickly and permanently. Admiral Ben Rodriguez watched the enemy fleet approach New Boston through his command screen. 512 Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation, their blue hulls gleaming in the light of the system's twin stars. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Admiral, enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 30 minutes, reported his tactical officer. They're maintaining standard battle formation. No scouts, no advanced screening. They really think this will be easy." Rodriguez smiled grimly. The Zephyrians were attacking exactly as predicted. For 1,000 years, they had fought the same way against the hegemony, massive fleets charging straight at each other until one side was destroyed. It had never occurred to them that there might be other ways to fight. "Signal all ships," Rodriguez ordered. "Maintain stealth positions, let them get close." Hidden throughout the New Boston system, 47 human warships waited in complete silence. Their hulls were black as space itself, invisible to alien sensors. Each ship carried weapons that had never been used in combat, but had been tested, secretly for decades. On the planet below, the colonists had been evacuated hours ago. The farms and cities stood empty, waiting. To the approaching Zephyrians, it would look like humanity had simply run away. Aboard the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Jektal studied the peaceful farming world through his viewing portal. No defensive fleet, no orbital weapons. The humans are even weaker than we thought. "Should we demand their surrender first?" asked his second-in-command. "No," Jektal replied. "Admiral Veltar wants them punished for refusing our alliance. Destroy everything. Leave nothing alive." The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation around the defenseless planet. Their plasma cannons charged up, ready to turn New Boston into molten slag. It would be another easy victory in their endless war. That's when Rodriguez gave the order. "All ships, decloak and fire." The space around New Boston suddenly filled with human warships appearing from nowhere. The aliens had 3 seconds to realize what was happening before the quantum phase cannons opened fire. The first salvo destroyed 60 Zephyrian ships instantly. Their shields meant nothing against weapons that could punch holes through reality itself. Entire dreadnoughts simply vanished, turned into expanding clouds of superheated gas. "Impossible!" Jektal screamed as his fleet began dying around him. "Where did they come from?" His tactical officer was frantically trying to target the human ships, but they moved like nothing he had ever seen. Instead of the slow, predictable patterns both alien races used, the human vessels darted and weaved through space like living things. Rodriguez watched the battle unfold on his screens. "Launch reality anchors. Don't let any of them escape." Missiles streaked out from the human ships, each one carrying a small device that would prevent hyperspace jumps in a wide area. The Zephyrians found themselves trapped, unable to flee as they had always done when battles went badly. "Sir, they're trying to surrender," reported Rodriguez's communications officer. "Negative," Rodriguez replied coldly. "Remember Babylon Point, no survivors." The massacre continued for 18 minutes. When it was over, debris from 512 Zephyrian ships drifted through space around New Boston. Not a single human vessel had been damaged. Rodriguez opened a channel to Earth. "Admiral Carter, this is Rodriguez. New Boston is secure. Enemy fleet completely destroyed. 0 human casualties." 300 light-years away, Admiral Jake Morrison received the same report aboard his flagship. He was leading Task Force Vengeance toward the hegemony border, where intelligence reports suggested another massive attack was being prepared. "Admiral Morrison," came Dr. Sullivan's voice over the comm system, "I'm reading unusual energy signatures from the hegemony fleet at Sector 7. They're trying something new." Jake studied the tactical display. 300 hegemony ships had gathered around the human colony of Eden Prime. But instead of attacking, directly they seemed to be waiting for something. "It's a trap," concluded Captain Claire Johnson from her position aboard the Retribution. "They heard about New Boston, They know we're coming. Captain Steve Parker, commanding the Justice, added his own analysis. My engineering teams have been monitoring their communications. They think they've figured out how our stealth technology works. They're planning to use some kind of sensor net to detect us. Jake nodded. The aliens were learning, but not fast. Enough. All ships prepare for micro-jump attack pattern. We'll hit them from angles they can't defend. The human fleet spread out across several light years of space, each ship calculating precise hyperspace jumps that would bring them inside the enemy formation. It was a maneuver that required split-second timing and perfect coordination. The aliens, with their rigid command structures and predictable tactics, could never pull off something like this. Execute, Jake ordered. 43 human warships vanished from their positions and reappeared scattered throughout the hegemony fleet. The aliens found themselves facing enemies that had materialized inside their own defensive formations. Warlord Krex, commanding the hegemony force, watched in horror as his ships began exploding around him. How are they doing this? Our sensors showed nothing. His tactical officer clicked his mandibles frantically. Sir, they're using quantum tunneling torpedoes. Our shields can't stop them because the weapons are phasing through normal space. Jake watched the battle from his command bridge. Each human ship was destroying multiple enemy vessels before the aliens could even turn to face them. It wasn't really a battle. It was an execution. Sir, the hegemony flagship is trying to ram us, reported his tactical officer. Let them try, Jake replied calmly. The massive hegemony dreadnought charged directly at Jake's ship, its commander preferring death in battle to the shame of defeat. The human vessel simply phased out of normal space for 2 seconds, letting the alien ship pass harmlessly through the space where it had been. When Jake's ship phased back in, it was directly behind the enemy flagship. One quantum torpedo later, Warlord Krex and his entire command crew were scattered atoms. The battle at Eden Prime lasted 22 minutes. Like at New Boston, no human ships were lost. News of both victories spread across the galaxy within hours. For the first time in over 1,000 years, the ancient war between the Zephyrians and hegemony came to a complete stop. Both sides recalled their fleets and went into emergency session with their high commands. In the space of one day, humanity had destroyed nearly 1,000 alien warships without taking a single casualty. The peaceful explorers and traders that everyone thought they knew had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. Emperor Axis Thul of the Zephyrian Empire and Supreme Commander Morthak of the Hegemony both reached the same conclusion. Humanity had to be destroyed immediately before they could do any more damage. For the first time in centuries, the two ancient enemies began secret negotiations for a temporary alliance. They had no idea that human intelligence agents had been listening to every word they said for the past 50 years. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans went to war, they didn't just win battles, they won everything. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center on Earth, watching intelligence reports flow in from across the galaxy. In the 3 weeks since the battles at New Boston and Eden Prime, both alien empires had pulled back all their fleets. The 1,000-year war had completely stopped as both sides focused on the new threat. Ma'am, we're intercepting communications between the Zephyrian Emperor and the Hegemony Supreme Commander, reported intelligence officer Danny Walsh. They're planning something called the Final Solution Protocol. Carter frowned. What's that, Doctor? Kate Sullivan, now working with the Intelligence Division, pulled up alien language files on her screen. It's a term that appears in both their ancient military codes. From what I can translate, it means destroying an enemy so completely that they can never threaten you again. Genocide, said General Frank Hayes bluntly. They're planning to wipe out humanity entirely. Admiral Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system from his flagship near the outer rim. Admiral Carter, my scouts are reporting massive fleet movements from both empires. They're combining their remaining forces. Carter activated the main display screen. Red dots representing alien ships were converging from all directions toward the center of the galaxy. Even after losing nearly 1,000 ships, both empires still had enormous fleets. How many ships are we looking at? Carter asked. Preliminary, Count shows 4,000 Zephyrian vessels and 3,500 hegemony ships, Hayes reported. They're meeting at the nexus point, exactly halfway between their territories. Dr. Sullivan looked worried. That's the largest fleet assembly in galactic history. Combined, they still outnumber us 15-1. Carter smiled coldly. Numbers don't win wars. Strategy does. What's their target? Danny Walsh checked his intelligence feeds. Ma'am, they're not heading for any of our colonies. They're coming, straight for Earth. The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The aliens weren't just trying to defeat humanity's military. They wanted to destroy the human homeworld and every person on it. Estimated time to Earth? Carter asked. 6 days if they maintain current speed, Hayes replied. But ma'am, there's something else. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures from their lead ships. Dr. Sullivan's face went pale as she read the sensor data. Admiral, those are biological weapons, planet killers. They're not planning to invade Earth. They want to sterilize it completely. Carter felt something cold settle in her stomach. The aliens weren't just declaring war on humanity's military. They were planning to commit genocide against 4 billion innocent civilians. Signal all fleet commanders, Carter ordered. Execute the Rhodes Doctrine immediately. Total war authorization is now in effect. The Rhodes Doctrine was humanity's most secret military strategy, named after Colonel Sam Rhodes, who had developed it over 20 years ago. Instead of fighting enemy fleets directly, human forces would target everything that kept those fleets operational. Admiral Jake Morrison received his orders and immediately began coordinating with his task force commanders. Captain Claire Johnson's squadron would hit the Zephyrian fuel depots in the Crab Nebula. Captain Steve Parker's ships would destroy the hegemony shipyards at Omega Station. Other human fleets would strike supply lines, command centers, and industrial facilities across 50 star systems. Remember, Jake told his captains over the secure channel, we're not just fighting their military anymore. They've chosen to target civilians. That changes everything. Meanwhile, Dr. Sullivan was working frantically in her laboratory, analyzing the biological weapons the aliens were carrying. What she found made her sick to her stomach. Admiral Carter, she reported, these aren't just planet killers. They're designed specifically to target human DNA. The aliens have been studying our biology for decades, waiting for a chance to use this. Carter's eyes turned hard as steel. How long would it take to kill everyone on Earth? If deployed in our atmosphere, maybe 6 hours for complete planetary sterilization, Sullivan replied quietly. Every human, every animal, every plant. Nothing would survive. That's when Carter made the decision that would change galactic history forever. Activate the Damocles Array, she ordered. General Hayes looked shocked. Ma'am, that system has never been tested at full power. We don't know what the side effects might be. I know exactly what the side effects will be, Carter replied grimly. The complete destruction of any fleet that threatens Earth. Power up all orbital platforms. Full defensive grid activation. High above Earth, hidden among what looked like communication satellites and space stations, the most powerful weapon system ever built began to charge. For 2 centuries, the Damocles Array had been disguised as civilian infrastructure. Now it revealed its true purpose. The alien fleet was still 3 days from Earth when the first human counterattacks began. Captain Johnson's squadron hit the Zephyrian fuel depot at exactly Aero 300 Galactic Standard Time. The explosion could be seen from 40 light-years away. At the same moment, Captain Parker's ship struck Omega Station. The massive hegemony shipyard, which had been building warships for 500 years, was reduced to floating debris in less than 10 minutes. All across the galaxy, human strike teams hit their targets with perfect coordination. Supply convoys vanished in brilliant flashes of light. Command centers went dark. Entire industrial worlds lost power as their fusion reactors were precision targeted by quantum torpedoes. Emperor Axis Thul watched from his flagship as reports poured in from across his empire. Impossible. How are they hitting so many targets at once? Supreme Commander Morthak's mandibles clicked frantically as he read similar reports from hegemony space. They're everywhere. How did they get ships past all our defenses? What neither alien leader understood was that human ships had been secretly stationed in their territory for decades. Every major military installation in both empires had been watched, mapped, and targeted years ago. When the order came to strike, human forces simply revealed themselves and destroyed everything important. Dr. Sullivan, monitoring the alien communications, made another disturbing discovery. "Admiral, I'm reading massive civilian casualties from their industrial worlds. The aliens built their weapons factories right next to their cities." Carter felt a moment of regret, but pushed it aside. They chose this path when they decided to exterminate humanity. We're fighting for our species' survival now. The alien fleet continued toward Earth, but it was already doomed. Without fuel, spare parts, or reinforcements, the 7,500 ships were just floating tombs carrying their crews toward destruction. On the third day, as the alien fleet approached the outer edge of Earth's solar system, Admiral Carter gave the final order. All Damocles platforms fire at will. Space around Earth lit up like a new sun as thousands of hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves. Energy beams that could punch through neutron stars reached out across millions of kilometers, touching each alien ship with precise, deadly accuracy. The massive combined fleet of the galaxy's two greatest empires lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds against Earth's defenses. When the light faded, there was nothing left but expanding clouds of superheated gas where 7,500 warships had been. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the destruction of the combined alien fleet, Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the observation deck of Unity 1, the massive space station humanity had built in what used to be the neutral zone. Through the wide windows, she could see ships from 3 different species working together to unload medical supplies and construction materials. It was a sight nobody had thought possible just a year ago. The surrender had come quickly, after Earth's orbital defenses destroyed the alien invasion fleet. Emperor Axis Thul of the Zephyrian Empire and Supreme Commander Morthak of the Hegemony had both transmitted formal surrender documents within hours of the battle. They had no choice. Their fleets were gone, their industrial capacity was destroyed, and their people were starving. "Admiral Carter," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Admiral Jake Morrison approaching, looking more relaxed than she had seen him in months. "The reconstruction reports from Sector 12 are in. We're ahead of schedule." Jake had been promoted to oversee the rebuilding efforts in former Hegemony space. It was a massive job. Hundreds of worlds had been devastated by the 1,000-year war, but humanity had approached reconstruction the same way they approached warfare, with overwhelming efficiency and careful planning. "How are the Hegemony leaders adjusting to the new government structure?" Carter asked. "Better than expected," Jake replied. "Turns out when you're not spending 90% of your resources on weapons, you can actually take care of your people. Most of the local commanders are cooperating fully." The peace treaty had been surprisingly gentle, considering humanity's overwhelming victory. Both alien empires kept their core territories and their basic governments. They just had to disarm their military fleets and accept human oversight of their reconstruction. Dr. Kate Sullivan joined them at the observation window. She now led the xenopsychology program that was helping both alien species adapt to peace. "Admiral, we've had another breakthrough in the genetic therapy program. The 3rd generation of treatments is showing remarkable results." Carter nodded. Sullivan's research had revealed why the aliens had been trapped in endless war for so long. Both species had evolved with brain structures that made them excellent at tactical thinking, but terrible at long-term strategic planning. They literally could not imagine peace lasting more than a few years. "How many volunteers are we up to now?" Carter asked. "Over 2 million from both species," Sullivan replied. "The therapy is completely voluntary, but word is spreading about how much it helps. Families that have been fighting for generations are learning to work together." Through the station windows, they could see one of the most remarkable changes. Zephyrian and Hegemony ships were working side by side, their crews cooperating on joint projects. Before the war ended, such cooperation would have been impossible. The two species would have started shooting each other on sight. Captain Steve Parker's voice came over the communication system. Admiral Carter, we have the final casualty reports from the reconstruction efforts. Carter activated her personal communicator. Go ahead, Captain. Ma'am, total deaths from the reconstruction phase are holding steady at under 50,000. Most of those were from industrial accidents, not violence. The medical aid we've provided has actually saved more lives than the war took. It was an incredible number. In 6 months of rebuilding 2 devastated empires, fewer people had died than in a single day of the old alien war. Human medical technology, combined with careful planning and massive resource allocation, had turned former battlefields into thriving colonies. Admiral Ben Rodriguez approached the group, carrying a data pad with the latest fleet reports. Admiral, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim. The Korthak Confederacy is making aggressive moves toward the former Zephyrian territories. Carter frowned. The Korthak were a smaller alien empire that had stayed out of the Thousand-Year War. Now they seemed to think they could take advantage of the power vacuum. What's their fleet strength? Carter asked. About 800 ships, Rodriguez replied. They're demanding tribute from the Zephyrian colonies and threatening military action. Jake looked concerned. The Zephyrians don't have any military ships left to defend themselves. That was part of the surrender agreement. Carter smiled coldly. Signal the Korthak leadership. Tell them they have 24 hours to withdraw from Zephyrian space and issue a formal apology for their threats. And if they refuse? Rodriguez asked. Then they'll learn why the Zephyrians and Hegemony surrendered so quickly. The Korthak response came 12 hours later. Their war leader, a creature called Thexmor, transmitted a message full of insults and threats. He claimed humanity was weak and cowardly for hiding behind technology instead of fighting honorably. Carter assembled a small task force of just 15 ships under Jake's command. It was barely a patrol group compared to the massive fleets humanity had used in the main war, but it would be more than enough. The confrontation happened at the edge of Zephyrian space, near a mining colony that the Korthak had been threatening. Thexmor brought his entire fleet of 800 ships, confident that his overwhelming numbers would intimidate the small human force. Human cowards, Thexmor broadcast on all frequencies. Surrender now and we will kill you quickly. Jake's response was simple. You have 1 minute to leave this system. This is your only warning. The Korthak fleet charged forward in the same predictable formation that aliens had been using for millennia. Jake's 15 ships simply vanished from their sensors, reappearing scattered throughout the enemy formation. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 800 Korthak ships were floating debris. The human task force hadn't suffered so much as a scratched paint job. News of the Korthak destruction spread across the galaxy even faster than reports of the main war. Every minor power that had been considering challenging humanity's new position quietly abandoned their plans. Dr. Sullivan stood in her laboratory on Unity 1, watching children from all 3 species playing together in the station's central park. Zephyrian younglings with their blue skin, Hegemony larvae with their multiple arms, and human children with their strange lack of natural weapons, all running around and laughing together. It's working, she said to herself. The genetic therapy was helping the adults, but the children were adapting naturally. Growing up in peace instead of war, they were developing completely different thought patterns than their parents. These children would never know the hatred that had driven the 1,000-year conflict. Admiral Carter received the final report from the Galactic Council, a new organization that humanity had established to prevent future wars. Representatives from 47 different species had signed the Unity Accords, agreeing to settle disputes through negotiation instead of violence. Ma'am, reported her aide, the Council has voted unanimously to establish permanent human peacekeeping forces in all major systems. They're also requesting human advisors for their military reforms. Carter nodded. It was exactly what they had hoped for. Humanity didn't want to conquer the galaxy. They just wanted to make sure that wars like the 1,000-year conflict never happened again. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at a convoy of medical ships heading toward a former battlefield. The ships carried supplies that would help heal worlds that had been wounded for centuries. It was a far better use of human technology than building weapons. He thought about his sister Mary, whose death had started this whole conflict. She would have liked seeing former enemies working together to build something better. The galaxy that had killed her out of casual cruelty was gone, replaced by something with hope for the future. The last report came from the Outer Rim, where Captain Claire Johnson was overseeing the establishment of new trade routes between former enemies. Commerce was replacing warfare as the primary relationship between species. Admiral, Johnson reported, the Zephyrian and Hegemony merchants are actually competing to see who can provide better service to human colonies. It's amazing what happens when you channel aggression into business instead of war. Carter smiled as she watched the sunset through Unity 1's windows. In the distance, ships from dozens of different worlds were arriving and departing, carrying goods and people instead of weapons and soldiers. The galaxy had shuddered when humanity finally entered the war, but from that violence had emerged something unprecedented, a lasting peace that grew stronger every day. The age of uncertainty was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and humanity would make sure it stayed that way.